folks, I guess the next major phase during the Third Reich was, of course, the war. Yeah? In September of 1939, World War II begins with the German invasion of Poland. That is not, however, how it was presented to the German people. There was a very strong anti-war sentiment in the years leading up to World War II here in Germany. People didn't want there to be another war. The memory of World War I was still far too recent. You know, there was none of the spirit of 1914 anymore. People were very sort of hesitant about the prospect of going to war. So the German people need to be prepped for war. They need to be made to see that war was necessary and good. What Goebbels' propaganda ministry, the lengths that they went to do that, was they actually took dead bodies from Sachsenhausen concentration camp, prisoners from the camp, dressed them up in Polish army uniforms, and took them out near the German-Polish border, laid them kind of artistically out on the ground, took photographs, which were then published in the German papers, running the story that, you know, yesterday the Polish, parts of the Polish army dared to invade Germany. The German troops fought bravely, won the battle. Here is evidence of the Polish invasion. And this incursion onto German soil cannot go without retribution. So unfortunately, this morning, Germany was forced to invade Poland. That's what people were told about it. You know, there are still old people around today who get confused if you suggest that, you know, Germany invaded first. And I think, wasn't it the other way around? I'm sure it was. Anyway, so Germany invades Poland, World War II begins, and while the Poles fight valiantly, they're no match for the German army machine, and before long Germany has overrun the country and they start to occupy Poland. Actually, they divide Poland up into two. They give half of it to the Soviet Union, and before the war they'd already sort of decided how they were going to divvy up Poland between them. Poor old Poland's been stuck between Germany and Russia for most of its life, and that's decided its fate several times over. So the Germans start to occupy Poland, and now you see another role for the SS, and that is running the occupation of the Polish occupied, the German occupied, parts of Poland. Here the general government, for example, is where a lot of the major cities were, and the man in charge of that was this guy here, Hans Frank, one of the SS guys who was deemed the governor of this area. And as I said before, you start to see a lot of Germany's Jewish population being sent to the concentration camps in this area here. And it upset the leaders of this region because, you know, everyone was trying to do their best to make their region free of the Jews, and he complained that, well, everyone just keeps sending them to me, you know, what am I supposed to do with them? And so as I said, you'd already started to see this moving towards the extermination policy. Now, in 1941, Hitler decides to invade the Soviet Union. You think you'd learn, yeah? Don't try to invade Russia. Hasn't really worked for anyone throughout history. But, you know, Hitler decides to give it a go. And they actually do have several spectacular victories in the beginning, and the Nazis advance deep into the Soviet Union. They almost get as far as Moscow. Now, with the invasion of the Soviet Union, you start to see atrocities occurring on a scale which far, far, far outweighs anything that was ever seen in the war in Western Europe. The Nazis deemed Slavs, Eastern Europeans, also to be sort of a racially inferior group of people. So with the invasion of the Soviet Union, you also start to see the development of groups called Einsatzgruppen, or special task forces. And what their job is basically involves mopping up operations after the army has gone and sort of advanced across and they've taken the territory. The Einsatzgruppen, their job is to literally go into the villages and round up every Jewish person who lives in the town, march them out into woods, make them dig a great big pit in the ground, and then literally shoot people en masse into mass graves. This is, I said, what you start seeing with the invasion of the Soviet Union. And the problem with what they were doing, apart from the very obvious problem, was that the sheer graphic nature of the work that these men had to do, literally shooting hundreds of women and children into pits full of bodies, was psychologically very, very trying on those who were doing it. Was starting to cause psychological problems, incidences, huge incidents of alcoholism. It was also starting to bring down the morale of the troops, because some would feel that others were not pulling their weight. You know, some would feel, well, you know, that guy there, he always does the roll call. You know, that guy there, he's always sort of helping with the walking. You know, he doesn't do enough shooting. I'm always left doing the dirty work. This kind of feeling. So it stirred resentment amongst the men. And like I said, it wasn't good for morale. So the Nazis needed to find a less psychologically damaging and more clinical way of carrying out that extermination. So in 1941, as I mentioned before, the building of the first death camps occurred. Treblinka, Belzec, Chelmsford, as I said, it was those scientists from the T4 program who were sent out to facilitate the setting up of those camps. They start to function in 1941. Then on the 20th of January in 1942, the Nazi leaders have a conference in a villa in Wannsee here in the south of Berlin. And there they sit down and work out on paper the logistics of executing the final solution to the Jewish problem. This was their plan to systematically exterminate all of the Jews in Europe. So by January of 1942, it's come full circle, you know, from simply emigration to relocation, deportation. It is now officially policy extermination. And the trains from occupied Western Europe start rolling east towards the death camps in Poland. The next section of the exhibition is about the German occupation in various countries in Europe. Some of the pictures are quite graphic. There are some of those mass shootings being carried out. The next part is about individual prisoners of the Gestapo and eventually the history of the site post-1945, which isn't quite as interesting. If you guys want to look at the next little bit on your own for a couple of minutes.